Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. Thanks for joining me and Blair Underwood, most recently seen in A Trip to Bountiful, Lifetime TV movie that aired in March. Movie's so good that you're doing it again on stage. I mean, you're continuing along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it began 50 years ago.
Sure.
As a televised play.
Yeah.
And then it went to the movie. Well, then it went to Broadway. Then it went to a movie with Geraldine Page.
That's right.
Then Cicely Tyson took it to Broadway in 2013. Now you guys, Lifetime movie 2014.
And now back to the stage. That's
now
right.
Back to the stage.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
First of all, I'm very excited to be here. Yeah, I guess Lillian Gish was the first person to play this character, Mother Watts, silent movie star back in the day. But yeah, it's had a lot of different versions of it. And I was so glad I didn't do the Broadway version. Cicely Tyson did, and of course Vanessa Williams. But I was very honored to be a part of the Lifetime version of it. I'd seen it in the previews, and it's one of those things where I watched it on stage and enjoyed very much the production and what the other actor was doing was great. It wasn't even about that, but it was like when you see those kind of words, Horton Foote's words in the script. I just wanted to jump at the chance of doing that, especially that last scene where the mother and son actually make it back to Bountiful. And I was like, man, those are the kind of scenes we, as actors, you die for. You kind of sink your teeth into. And it's subtle. I mean, if you've seen the movie or our movie or play, if you know the story, it's a very simple story. But it resonates to this day, I think, because of its simplicity, but also it's universal, because people can relate to either home, a desire to go back home, a longing for a home they never had, your mortality, all of those things. It's a beautiful story.
And the connections between the family characters too.
That's right.
I mean, the mother-son connection is very strong, as you say in that last scene.
Exactly.
Very powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking when I first saw it, I didn't know why Ludi, the son, did not want to go back to Bountiful. I mean, because his mother has such a desire and a passion to go back to Bountiful. And I thought, and this is, again, back to the simplicity. I didn't know if there were some dark demons that happened in that place.
Right.
And you learn, I don't want to give too much away, but it's been around for 50 years, but you learn when he gets back there that it's really, it's the antithesis of what I thought. It's because the memories were so good. And he didn't match up to what he thought he was supposed to become and be and do. So here he is now, this husband. He's married to Vanessa Williams' character, and he feels like he's a failure. He's not a father. Not that you have to be, but in his mind, he thought he should be.
Right.
By this
expected to be.
Expected to be. And just all of that weight of just feeling as though you haven't become what you haven't stepped into the shoes that you're supposed to step into, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it's real life.
And when we refer to it as a scene, it's a long scene. I mean, it plays out as the whole film does, as the whole play does. It plays out very slowly in revealing itself and revealing what's going on with these characters. As you say, a very simple story, but it becomes much more complex and much more in-depth as it just kind of leisurely goes along.
It's a great way to put it. It lulls you in. I mean, it is very much the rhythm of this Mother Watts, of this older woman. It's her pace. It's her energy.
Right.
It's her emotions, and you take that journey. You take that ride with it.
Yeah, and so as I'm watching that scene with your character, Ludi, I'm wondering, well, yeah, why is he so resistant to be back at this place? Why didn't he take his mother back to Bountiful? And then you see just the heartbreaking regret that's inside this man. It's a really beautiful scene. Like you say, it's the kind of scene an actor, I imagine you're reading this, and it's just, wow.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing I got into this profession to do.
That's right. That's right. It's the subtleties and the nuances of real life. And then what else is heartbreaking is her reaction to her son. I mean, he really reverts to that little boy. It's that little boy that wants to be understood and wants to be loved and wants to be embraced and wants to be accepted. And then here comes his wife, played by the great and gorgeous and wonderful Vanessa Williams. Yeah. She's great fun to work with. But, that character is very strident and very overbearing. And that was something too, you know, when I first came into this project, which was an interesting dynamic in and of itself, because again, Miss Tyson and Vanessa having done the play for 200 performances on Broadway, there was a certain rhythm and connection they had. Vanessa and I had known each other, met each other, never worked together. Miss Tyson and I had worked together 3 times before. This is our 4th time working together. So we thankfully that helped a lot. We had have a certain chemistry and history. Now, I think the first time we worked together was 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And wow, it's funny. It was a movie it's called Heatwave, about the Watts riots. I played an LA Times reporter. I think we shot downstairs, as a matter of fact. But she played my grandmother in that. But it was helpful to have that kind of almost familial connection between the two of us. But because they had that rhythm, it was almost like standing on the side of a roaring stream, because they knew, you know, what to do, and they knew where to go, what to do, and I'm trying to find my way. They both made it very easy, but it was like kind of jumping into a stream and just kind of going with the flow. So that helped a lot. But it was challenging, but challenging initially, trying to find my footing. But then it worked out. But Michael Wilson, the director, was fantastic. My first question to him was, is Ludi, this character, is he a coward? And is he weak? And there are certain hints in the script that I noticed. You know, when Ludi, there's in a monologue, or it's a conversation he has with his wife, and he's saying how he was sick for 2 years and he was in bed. Number one. And then the mother and my wife are arguing, and he leaves. And when he leaves, Vanessa's character says something about, look what you did, you're gonna make him sick again. So to me, watching my mother go through depression and having a breakdown, nervous breakdown, the whole sense of mental illness and how debilitating it can be, and depression, just screamed at me. So it wasn't written anywhere. It was all just kind of suggested. So I asked Michael about that. I said, to me, this is a man who worked, and it's something, especially look at someone like Vanessa Williams, as strong as she is, as gorgeous as she is. Why would she look at this character if he were a weakling or a coward? So there was a man, I think, who was strong, who was broken down and had a breakdown. And when he was in bed for 2 years, to me, he was depressed.
Sure. And
he couldn't get out of bed, which happens.
Yeah.
So to me, that gave me a whole different, I think, access and approach to this character, not to play him as a wimp.
Yeah.
Or just the mama's boy. He loves his mother, yes.
Right.
He loves his wife, and he's caught in the middle of that.
Yeah, and that really comes across, and because typically on a material like this, you might see that character between sort of the 2 very strong women, and he's just sort of the, like you say, the wimp, and just dominated by these people. But not so in this show.
Yeah, I think that's the easy choice. I think it changes the dynamics. If he's not just weakling, because you can write him off too easily.
More human.
More human. Yeah.
You say you saw the play on Broadway in previews?
I did.
Is that because you knew, as you say, Miss Tyson, or
you
don't call her Cicely?
Oh no, nobody calls her Cicely. That's Miss Tyson, and you bow and you kiss the ring.
Yeah.
just so you know, if you meet
her.
No, I was fortunate enough to do Streetcar on Broadway the year before. The producers of Streetcar also were the producers on Bountiful, and I happened to be, I was in New York shooting the pilot of Ironside this time 2 years ago. So it was the day before we started shooting, and I was, I'm in New York, so I want to go see theater, and we were all friends, and I said, let me go check it out. So I'm glad I did. Who knew that I'd have a chance to be a part of it a year later.
So it's funny you say that about, so you've worked with her quite a bit. Just in researching this, I came across a classic photo of her just sitting in the airport. She was married to Miles Davis. And they're just sitting there with just huge sunglasses, looking insanely beautiful.
I'm sure.
What an interesting life. And
oh my God. Well, can we just pause for a moment? This woman, I should not say her age, but she's probably more than you realize she is, because she doesn't like talking about it. But to be at this stage of her life and to do 8 shows a week on Broadway, where the stakes are high, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's critical acclaim or not, whatever it is, it's high stress. And to do that at this stage of her life, and to do it with such excellence and win the Tony Award, she's phenomenal. And I have to tell you, when we shot the Lifetime version, we shot it in Atlanta in November, so it was very cold, which is kind of antithetical to the script where it's the hot South,
Right,
Texas.
right.
But we went with it. But she never once complained, never once got angry. Was always on top of the work she was doing. So I mean, I look at Miss Tyson, I'm thinking, I never have an excuse to complain about anything.
Yeah.
On set, anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere.
And so you're doing the show again at the Amundsen,
Right.
starting in September.
Right down the street.
Yeah.
Starting September, October, we close November 2nd. So yeah, so I call this Miss Tyson and Vanessa's victory lap, you know, because it's a victory. You know, whenever you go to Broadway, you never know how people will receive you or not. So to have that success and then the film, and hopefully she'll get nominated for an Emmy for this, and then to bring it back to stage,
Right.
It's great. So this is her victory lap.
And it'll be kind of cool for you to do it on stage.
Well, yeah.
And get into those rhythms that you were talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in one way, I said it was challenging because they had done the play, but in some ways it was maybe a little bit easier because Vanessa would say often it was difficult because, you know, because it is a different medium, there was some cutting and pasting you had to do. So when it's in your muscle memory, in your mind, you're used to saying things, doing things a certain way. When you take out a chunk of dialogue, you have to really focus and think about it. So for me, I'm coming to it fresh for the first time. But yeah, so that said, I'm sure everything will be back the way it was, and it'll be great to just play on the stage with those two actresses.
I was checking out your Twitter feed, and you were saying you're doing that. You're also going down to San Diego, doing Othello at the Old Globe. It's like you said, it's my first professional love. Like, and you're doing a year of theater almost.
It is. Yeah. I think, you know, when Ironside was canceled, and I've been very blessed to do a number of series. That was my 9th series, so by the grace of God. But what you learn is opportunities come and go. Hopefully they'll keep coming. You never know when it's going to stop coming. But I've been very blessed and fortunate, and it was a time where I could take some time off from pursuing camera work, whether it's film or television. And this stage has always been my first love. I started in dinner theaters in Richmond, Virginia, and Petersburg, Virginia. But to you know, that when Othello came along, that was the first thing, which we do start rehearsals next week, actually. It'll be at the Old Globe, and we'll run June, July, end of July, and then we start rehearsals for Bountiful 2 weeks after that. So yeah, it'll be nice, kind of spend time on the stage. I
mean, you mentioned Ironside. Never had a chance to watch it. It was announced.
It was quick, man.
It was here, and then it was. I mean, what was that surprising to you? I mean, you had. I mean, so many shows need sort of time to find their legs, time to find the tone, the character.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And you know what? As much as technology changes, and here we are doing a live chat, and you know, everything's on demand nowadays, what doesn't change is human nature. And you know, it takes repetition for people to find you and to like you and invite you back, and by demand go find you again. So it takes time. So if you're not given that time, you know, it is what it is. But it's a business, and you take it in stride. And I was grateful for the opportunity, and learned a lot and grew a lot. And you know, it had fun more than anything.
Yeah.
I think at this stage in my life and career, it's really about the process. I just want to have fun and be challenged, and that's part of this year of theater. I mean, Othello's challenging like nothing I've ever done before. Having done Shakespeare before, but never Othello. So it's a different beast completely.
Yeah, it's funny looking on Twitter, you know, before you came today, just the random things that people kind of latch onto about you. There was some genuine excitement among a lot of people today that one of your Sex and the City episodes was on. You know, I don't know where it's TBS or whatever, but the Blair Underwood episode was on. Very excited.
She's like, oh yeah.
They know. Yes.
I had no idea.
Do you still does that? I mean, you did like 5 episodes of that. I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever. Does that still run? I have no idea. I was not its core group.
Let me tell you, man. But... Yeah, sure you would. You know, it's funny when I did. I found out how many men watched.
Right.
But I didn't before that. I think, thank God for my wife. It was probably the best decision I ever made, because I was like, you know, when the offer came in, I said, I don't know. I mean, I'd never seen it. I just knew she was on lockdown Sunday night whenever it came on. Don't talk to her.
Right.
You know, boom.
That's her time.
That was her time. But she said, what are you even thinking about? That's huge. You don't even understand how big that is. So yeah, I mean, it was great in that respect, but also again the process. I had a boss, Cynthia Nixon, who played Miranda on the show, was phenomenal. I had never met her before. When she heard I was doing the show, she found my number from the producers and called, and she said, "I'm on the set with all the girls. We heard you coming to the show. I want to say welcome," and just a class act the whole time. And then there's New York in the summer. You can't go wrong with that.
Right. We are getting some questions. Let me see what we have here. There's Gloria Rogers. I mean, you talk about opportunities and the work and things. I mean, just and what people remember that you did. Gloria Rogers saying your story on In Treatment was unforgettable. You should have received an Emmy for that role. Terrific acting.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Gloria. Where's it? Wherever you. Thank you, Gloria.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, there's an example of that. You know, just shows you do, opportunities that you have.
Yeah.
And that was a good show.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was a great year. I mean, again, the ebb and flow of a career, you just never know. That was 2008, and I was very fortunate to do I was on 3 shows in 2008. It was In Treatment, Dirty Sexy Money, and what was it? Treatment, Dirty Sexy Money, and New Adventures of Old Christine, guesting on that. And then 2009, I didn't work the whole year. I mean, there's some things that came out. I wasn't excited about it. So you never know how it's going to go, and you never know what people will respond to, what they'll like. But from the very beginning, when I told my parents I want to be an actor, I said all I want to do is I want to work and I want to tell stories and I want to hopefully affect people. You know, whether it's they're laughing or they're crying or they're thinking, you know, hopefully they'll just be entertained. And now more than ever, because the mediums have changed and there's not a structured place where you can only be a TV actor, you can only be a movie actor, you can only be a stage actor. Now, like never before, you can be a YouTube actor. You know, you can, there's so many different mediums and platforms to work.
What was that conversation like with your parents?
You know, they were great about it.
Yeah.
I found out later each one of them individually had aspired to be an actor at some point.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I didn't know it growing up. But you know, for them, for an African American actor in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't realistic at all. So when I came along saying I wanted to do it, they were gung ho, and they were my first managers, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. Kept it in the family.
They kept it in the family. Yeah.
There's a question from Carmen Love, asking who is your favorite female actress that you've worked with. Now I'd imagine that since we've mentioned Miss Tyson, I mean,
Miss Tyson.
Yeah. You don't want to upset her just in case.
Make sure I kiss the ring.
But you know, we have talked about her as anybody else.
Yeah. Well, listen, all jokes aside, definitely Miss Tyson's one. Vanessa's been great. She's so funny. She's got an incredible sense of humor, Vanessa Williams. But Julia Louis-Dreyfus is insanely funny and generous. I've been spoiled with actresses to work with some great actors who have challenged me and had great laughs at the same time.
And you mentioned 2009 as being a year that was quiet. There's a question from Greg Tomsick asking Mr. Underwood, what do you do to work on your craft when you're not on film or TV? So what do you do during that?
Not on film and TV?
To keep or I guess you do theater, obviously.
Yeah, that's
what you're doing right now.
Great question. Yeah.
Staying sharp.
That's right.
How do you stay sharp?
As I mentioned, I started doing dinner theaters in Colonial Heights, outside Richmond, Virginia, Petersburg, Virginia. And when I say that's my first love, it's kind of where I started. It's where you're challenged the most. It is the actor's medium. You know, an editor can't come in and change. The director can't once the curtain goes up. So it's where you really, it's our domain as actors. So when I can, if something comes along that's right, it's got to be right. I mean, my wife and I have 3 kids, so you know, to work at the Old Globe in San Diego, 2 hours away, is perfect. Because if I have to come back, you know, for family time, I can be here at least once a week, and that's important. And so, and that's all part of the equation that goes into making a decision what to do. But to answer your question, theater whenever I can.
You did do Streetcar on Broadway in 2012.
Right.
That was one where you were willing to travel.
Streetcar.
Yeah.
And it was Broadway. So, and that was a dream come true because that was my Broadway debut, and I had always wanted to work in New York. Broadway. I'd worked in New York theater before, but not Broadway. So that was amazing, and you make accommodations for it. You know, fly them out, I mean, there were 3, 4 times where I came back, you know, we're off Monday, so after Sunday night matinee, I'd get on a plane, go straight to JFK, come here to sleep in my bed, drive the kids to school, spend time, you know, see family, and just get right back in New York Tuesday morning, take a nap, and ready for the show that night. So, you know, it's doable just to sometimes just break up that long run.
Did the experience live up to the dream?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To me, I consider that one of the highlights of my career, partially because it was a dream come true. It was a realization of that. And it's Tennessee Williams. So to say those words and to work with Nicole Ari Parker, who played Blanche, and Daphne Rubin Vega, who played Stella, and Wood Harris, who played Mitch. We had an amazing time. And then, you know, it's only 5-month run of 16 weeks with rehearsal. But I think from beginning to end, we're constantly challenging each other and pushing each other to get better. You know, so I think our last show was probably our best show, which is what you want.
Do you have any relative? This seems a random question, but maybe I just don't know. Steubenville?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have relatives in Steubenville? Do you teach any classes? I don't. Those are
teaching classes.
2 separate questions.
What are you reading there? I do. Yeah, my dad is from Steubenville, Ohio.
Okay.
So my dad and all my uncles and aunts, the whole Underwood side of the family, is from Steubenville, Ohio. I don't teach though. I haven't. Not formally. Not in classroom.
Would you like to ever?
My wife
calls
she calls me a teacher all the time. You always want to teach. You like those teaching moments with the kids. And
all right, so
you
do.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, not formally in a classroom.
If you have kids, you
know, exactly.
24/7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Yeah. Blair, thank you for coming to the LA Times.
Oh man,
appreciate it.
I was just rambling. I was just talking away.
If you guys want more on this story or other stories, please check out latimes.com. And thank you for joining us today.